Welcome to the Hear It From Harlan podcast. I'm your host, Bill Riley. Director of Utah Athletics Mark Harlan takes us behind the scenes with exclusive interviews with student athletes, discusses the state of collegiate athletics, and all things Utah. Now, let's hear it from Harlan. And welcome into another edition of the Hear It From Harlan podcast. I'm Bill Riley. Mark Harlan, Director of Athletics, with me here. It's our first podcast of 2025. It feels like more than a year since you and I got together. It's not been a full year, but we're into a new year here. How are things?
Things are good, Bill. Good to get caught up today. Lots going on. Exciting time with our winter sports right in the thick of it, and our spring sports just getting rolling. So great to get caught up.
Tons going on. This week, men's basketball is home against Cincinnati. It's they're kind of going through that initiation process in the Big 12 Conference, and I think you could really see it early on, Mark. You could talk about it all you want. It's a tough league. It's the best league in the country. It's a physical league, but sometimes you have to actually experience it. And I think Craig's team is now kind of getting the feel for what Big 12 basketball is.
Yeah, we knew that during the whole transition last year, as we studied all the different sports and everything that they would bring, the graphs would shoot off the charts when we started, studying men's basketball. And, I appreciate the fact that the guys, I think, have really raised their physicality. We always want them to make more shots and all those kind of things. But the one thing I've seen pretty consistently is their physicality. You go up against some of these elite teams, and you're just in a fist fight, and you could see that as you studied the Big 12 last year. But yeah, I think life on the road every week. There's a road game. It appears you might get 1 week where you're playing BYU and you're not on the road, but 18 straight games without a bye. I know all the ADs discussed that last year. We'll continue to review that, but I appreciate their toughness. We've obviously lost the last couple games, won 3 of our last 5, couple road games in there. That's been good to see. And, we'll just keep grinding forward. That's all you can do.
What's been your kind of read on the season? We all go into a season with some expectations, but you knew the Big 12 was going to be difficult. So did Craig, and kids are kind of learning it too. But as we sit here, not quite at the midway point of conference season, but coming up on it, what's your read?
I think it's interesting in men's basketball. I've talked to a lot of our colleagues about that, where you've got a sport that's 8 or 9 new faces every year. It's just really about getting that talent together and getting them to click as soon as possible. What I really appreciate about this group is they did come together really fast. I thought they were aided by some returners like Gabe and others and Lawson, who really embraced all the new kids that were just getting here, in the beginning of the summer. But that's men's college basketball. It's a race to who can get that clicking at the fastest time. But it's good to see some of those new guys really come on. Ezra has really just been growing and growing and growing, and to watch him and everything he's doing better than he was a month ago is really exciting to see, and certainly many others that we've seen that from. So, I think my expectations were that we were going to fight like heck every game, give it everything we have, and see what the results are. We were picked last to be in the league. We're obviously not last. We're kind of in that mid-tier, and a good week can change everything. If you can figure out a way to win 2 games in a week, you really step forward. So we're in the middle of it. Really appreciate our fans that have been coming out. Great crowd against BYU, and obviously a really good crowd this last weekend against Baylor. Would have liked to get that result. We started off well and couldn't quite get there at the end, but appreciate everybody coming out and support the team. It makes a big difference.
Tuesday night, the Cincinnati Bearcats will be in, and they were a top 25 team early in the year. They've been through this for a year. They're experiencing some ups and downs too. It's 2 teams that kind of need a win coming up on Tuesday night.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going through the Utah swing at BYU on Saturday night. Stayed here obviously, and so we're excited for that game. Right? We got a great chance in front of our home crowd to give it all we have and try to get a good result, and then at the end of the week head out to Oklahoma State. Again, every week you're traveling. Bill, as you know, you've been along with these guys for every game. I'm excited. I'll be joining the team in Oklahoma State coming off of Big 12 meetings later in the week, and get to see that environment, support the team.
I will say this, whether it was football in the fall or now basketball, the one big difference between the Pac-12 era and the Big 12 era is when you get to campuses, that there's an event going on. The people on the campuses, the people in those towns, they come out and support, whether it's football or basketball.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we one of the things we saw in multiple sports in this conference, to your point, there is big-time crowds, and I appreciate our crowds too. We've had the last few games, we've had over 8,000 plus in there. At BYU, it was sold out And it was just great environment. And again, it helps. It just helps them when we have to go to a team and watch what it does for them as a home team, and it helps for us. So very, very grateful.
On the other side of the arena, the women's basketball program coming off a great week a week ago, beating Kansas at home and then going down to Provo and beating BYU, and led by their best player, who we found out on Monday was named Big 12 Player of the Week, Gianna Kneepkens. Good week for Gavin's team.
Yeah, just a great week for Gav and the team. I just thought they played lights out in both games. I know they started a little bit slow down at Provo, which is understandable. They had a great crowd down there, and our team just settled in. Great senior leadership, great coaching, and they really got after. And Gianna, who we're going to talk to here in a little bit, has just been just incredible. To watch her come off an injury last year and just, get her footing. And boy, she is sprinting ahead and just really inspiring everybody around her. Got a real break that Kennedy wasn't out for the season after watching that injury at Iowa State. I was watching on TV. I was really concerned. But, the fact that she got on the court and was able to play on Sunday really bodes well as we get into the rest of the season. One
of the really great surprises, I think, this year was everybody was, how do you replace Alyssa Peely? How do you replace Alyssa Peely? I think Maya Torre has been a fantastic step in her first year here, because I'm not sure anybody quite had a grasp on just how quickly she'd assimilate into the program, and I think she's been terrific.
She has, Bill. I appreciate you mentioning that. She's been unbelievable, and as a grad student, the kind of leadership and respect she had from the moment she walked in has been noticed. And she causes teams just nightmares, and she's just been terrific. I didn't know she could shoot like that. I don't think Lynn told me she could shoot like that. I don't know if Lynn knew or Gavin knew she could shoot from the three as she did in that Iowa State game. I think she had 3 or 4 threes. But she's been great. It's just a really fun team to be around, and I'm excited to see. I think we're tied for 4th right now on the women's side, and excited to see where it goes.
Just real quick, Friday night, the Power of Pink game at the Huntsman Center. The Arizona Wildcats come in. That's a 6:30 start time, so a good crowd would be welcome for that. Since you and I last did a podcast, there was a change of leadership. You mentioned Lynn Roberts, now the head coach of the LA Sparks. Just real quickly, for those that may not have heard, you and your staff acted very quickly. You did not put an interim tag on Gavin Peterson. You said, Gavin's going to be our guy. Just a quick Reader's Digest version of why you knew Gavin was the right guy.
Well, I think part of the role that I have is you always have to think that there could be something that happens with one of your head coaches. They could get a call. They could decide to call it, whatever it might be. And so, always kind of wondering about, Gavin, and just watching him so closely and thinking, boy, he could be really good. And, he's been really kind to us. He's had head coaching opportunities. I can think of 2 or 3 since I've been here, particularly in the last 2 years. And so when Lynn, who did a fabulous job here, I could go on and on about everything she did. She also exited in the right way, right? She told me that she got the phone call. She wanted me to be thinking about it. We chatted about it. And, I'm so proud of her, and it'll be fun to watch her as the Sparks get going next summer. But Gavin just made that much sense. And to your point about why interim, why not, I just knew what we had. And I knew that it would stabilize the program. But that's not fair to Gavin. It's more than stabilizing, right? He's just very, very good at what he does. And we've seen that, right? I mean, they really haven't missed a beat. And he's still out there warming up the players, and which he did as assistant coach. And he'll make those changes as needed. But he's doing a great job, and it's not easy. I'm sure I'll bring it up with Gianna here in a minute, but it's just not easy to deal with that as players. And I think our student athletes have done a phenomenal job, and I think Gavin's been a big part of that as well.
A couple other quick thoughts here. The Red Rocks doing what the Red Rocks do. They dominate the in-state competition. They've had to deal with some injuries. They lose Jade Rucker for the year. Avery Neff, thankfully, is not seriously hurt, but it looked pretty crazy a couple of weeks ago. But they've got a big one coming up this weekend at Morgantown with West Virginia and Florida coming up. But Carly's crew off to a good start.
Yeah, they really are doing great. And, obviously last week's event, we had the top score in the country, which was great to see. And then, no matter what the sport, there's always a big crowd when we go down to Provo. And I thought we did a really good job. And to your point, just managing through injuries, there's a lot of depth on that team. We're hoping Avery will be back soon. She's a warrior. One of my staffers just ran into her, and she, is down at the chow place, and she's just out there already trying to make sure she has her crutches and all the stuff she's doing to get ready to go. But she'll be back, and Yeah, I mean, Jaden, gosh, that bummed me out. She's one of my favorites, and I was so excited but she's in great spirits, and I run into her all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I got to go see Carly when we're done. Here we are going against West Virginia in a Big 12. Did the Gators just knock on the door? Are they hanging out up there? I got to go find out. I just noticed that this morning. Like, why is Florida up in Morgantown? Oh, scheduling, Bill. I got to go find out how that happened, but that puts a little juice in the meat. Have a little SEC team in there. I got to check in with my buddy, the AD at West Virginia, and find out how that went down. But yeah, they're awesome, and appreciate our crowd. We just had huge crowds, and as we always do at Red Rocks, but they so appreciate it.
And speaking of teams that just do what they do, of course, Utah Ski. They just win national championships or finish second. And looks like Frederick's got another terrific team. They won the Utah Invitational last week at Soldier Hollow, won at Montana State over the weekend. Another monster year, it looks like, for skiing.
Yeah, I think that group is a little inspired by their .04 second loss to our friends in Boulder and have a little different jump in their step, ski, whatever you want to call it. Incredible off-season workouts. It's amazing to watch those guys get after it and gals just do everything in the weight room. But excited to see them. And, I'm going to get back to the Natty. I did it a couple of years ago, and I look forward to joining them again. But appreciate Frederick and that group being ready to roll.
And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you the spring sports are really beginning to ramp up now. Men's and women's tennis, swim and dive, indoor track and field, and lacrosse just around the corner as well.
Yeah, lacrosse and everybody else getting started. I love this time of year because you're kind of in the thick of it of your winter sports, as mentioned earlier, and then you've got this group of excited, at the starting gate, ready to roll, and all these other sports. I see lacrosse is opening at Ohio State. Drew loves to just go find the big dogs after 2 straight years of opening at Notre Dame. So, excited for everybody. This time of year when everybody's competing outside some of those limited fall teams like football, volleyball, cross country, but everyone else is getting ready to roll track and field. It's a great time of year.
If you guys want to track all of it, UtahUtes.com is a great place to go. You got all the start times, all where they are, when they're home, when they're away, and any broadcast information that might be there as well. So we've gotten that kind of out of the way. The guest of honor is coming in here in just a few minutes, Gianna Kneepkens, who is just one of the great basketball players in recent and maybe all-time Utah basketball, women's basketball history. She'll be in as a guest, as we just mentioned a minute ago, newly minted as Big 12 Player of the Week. Mark will catch up with Gianna coming up next. This is Hear It from Harlan. For tickets, apparel, team schedules, and more, visit UtahUtes.com, the official website of Utah Athletics.
Well, we certainly love this portion of the podcast when I get a chance to sit down with one of our awesome student athletes, and we can redefine awesome. Gianna Kneepkens is here today. Let me just say, Gianna, you are the pride and former president of Duluth Marshall High School. I'm sure you had a lot of time to be student body president with everything you were doing, being one of only 14 four-star athletes to come out of Minnesota. So how was that being president of your student body, by the way?
Yeah, it was fun. I went to a small school, so kind of a tight-knit community. But it was fun to plan events. And it's a little bit different than going to practice every day, so I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm not surprised because we'll talk about everything you're doing on the court, which is just amazing. But you've always been a part of our Crimson Council here. You've been a part of the leadership structure we have overall for all our student athletes, and I'm very grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful that we'll get a chance to visit today. So we're hot off the press here. You are the reigning Big 12 Player of the Week. You have just, I don't know if there's a better way to say it, you have just been on fire. And to watch you coming back from your injury last year and just every game just getting better. So congratulations on the season so far. But let's start there. Let's start a little bit about the team. We had some drama early on with Lynn taking an incredible opportunity, and Charmel and I decided to go with Gavin. I don't think I'll ever forget my entire career walking in that morning and having to tell you guys with Lynn. But it just seems like the way you guys have handled this has been extraordinary. So why don't you give me some thoughts about the season, of course, that change you guys went through?
Yeah, I think anytime you lose a coach, it's a big change. But when you lose your head coach in the middle of season, it's definitely a little bit hard. But you and Charmel made it super easy by having Gavin. Gavin was Coach Rob's right-hand man for a long time, so it was as smooth as possible. It felt a little funny for a couple days, but as soon as we got practices and some games in, it felt pretty natural, and it feels good now. We are in a rhythm. We have won some big games. I think his 4th game, we beat the number 3 team in the country. So pretty impressive there. But yeah, we're just figuring it out. We've lost some games, but nothing we shouldn't have lost. And we got back on track by beating Kansas and BYU. So.
Yeah, you guys really have. I think, and I appreciate your comments about that with Gavin and Lynn, and I do think it speaks to your leadership and Gianna and others, and just the culture of the team that I've really seen through the years, and your guys' ability to just march forward. You know, you guys have a special team. Let's not let anything get in the way, and you guys certainly have proved that. It's really been inspirational for a lot of us, and I just want to thank you for your leadership in that way. So let's talk about the one game that I think about a lot, and it was the game that you guys, obviously the Notre Dame game was incredible in the early season, but it was that game at Iowa State, you know, and the crowd, as we all knew, was going to be really big as we get to these Big 12 schools, but you guys just went in there. I think you guys hit everything early, and it just kind of went from there, but you also had a scare in that game. You scared all of us here. You're scared, and I believe that the camera's funny because they kept showing someone that wasn't your dad. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard all about that. Lynn is texting me during the game, that's not her dad. She was worried about you, and she was upset with that. But that game seemed to set a tone for the rest of the Big 12 season. Talk about that night there at Iowa State.
Yeah, I mean, Iowa State's a great team, and like you mentioned, their crowd is probably one of the best I've played in front of, so a great environment as a college athlete. I think our mindset was just go in, just play together, be us, because when we play our type of basketball, Utah basketball, we're unstoppable, and we started the game off well. I think Maya hit 2 threes right away. They couldn't stop her, and then the momentum just kept going. So it was a very fun game, and I think like I said, they're a great team, so building confidence on that was huge. Yeah,
it really was, and then you guys, like you said, you've had some amazing games. Well, let's just look to the most recent. You've obviously been on a tear that I'm sure we'll have to look up these last 3 games. If not every game 30, dang close. I know the last 2 have been 30 plus, you know, obviously the rivalry game where you guys won, and that was a fantastic win. What do you think's going on in this last week with you? Is that just kind of what a superior athlete sometimes you're feeling it, or are you just really, really comfortable right now?
Yeah, I think, you know, coming off an injury, just trying to kind of find my footing again, playing with more confidence, but also I think my teammates have been doing a great job of finding me. I think against Kansas, we had like something insane amount of assists. So like just playing Utah basketball, like I said, we can really get going. People can get hot, and if we play inside out, I feel like we're a really hard team to guard.
Yeah, it's just been amazing to watch you do your thing. Talk about Maya a little bit. I mean, you know, she's got such a great personality, and I had a lot of high hopes for her, but wow, she has come in and just solidified that position, obviously following the great Alyssa Peely, but she's just fit in so well with you guys. Talk to me about her a little bit.
Yeah, she's awesome. I think what's cool about her is she was at Rhode Island for 4 years, so she kind of knew a system, but she's coming somewhere new, and she's very open to learning new things. Like, she always just wants to give the team their best, so she'll be like she'll tell me things to help me, and then she'll ask like, oh, what should I do to be better? And I think with someone that is just here for a year, that's all you can ask for, to have them and have that trust in them that they want to do what's best for the team.
Well, again, I think that goes back to culture, feeling comfortable to ask those questions, particularly to someone like yourself and Gianna and others. And if I didn't mention Lightning, she'll call me out later. Speaking of her, so good to see her back, to see Kennedy back. She was walking off the court on Wednesday night against Kansas, and I said, how you doing? She goes, I'm coming back on this weekend. Don't tell anybody. And then sure enough, there she was. It must have been great to have her back on the court.
Oh, yeah. I love playing with Ken. It's sad that this is our last year playing together, but just glad to see her back out there. It was a really scary moment at Iowa State, and from what she says, she's feeling strong and stuff, so can't wait to get her some more time.
Yeah, you and her about scared all of us. I'm sure yourselves too. But it was so great that you were okay and that hers was an injury, that she's already back. Well, let's talk a little bit about some other things. So first of all, I find there's so many great things about you, and I want to talk about 2 things. One, can you talk a little bit about having 5 brothers and being the only sister in this group? I mean, you know, I imagine basketball games were pretty rampant at the house.
Yeah. The biggest word I can think of like my childhood growing up is just chaos. Everything was a competition. It would be who can get to the car fastest after the grocery store. We'd play tackle football in the backyard. We'd play night games. Everything was just a competition. So I think a lot of my toughness and competitive spirit comes from just growing up with 5 brothers.
Where are you in the birth order there?
I'm the youngest.
So you're the youngest.
Yeah, so I got beat up, but I also beat them up a little bit.
There
so.
it is. I'm sure you held your own. So you're the youngest. Yeah, you probably were like, I'm going to make sure that I get what I want, and I'm going to throw some elbows and do those kind of things. Are we other athletes in this group?
They would say they are, but high school is the highest level they
So
play.
none of them have ever been the Big 12 player of the week in anything?
No, they'd probably claim like Big 12 brother of the week, but no sports.
No, will you get a text from them today, you think, or are they going to act like it never happened?
No, they're awesome. They're after every game they're texting me. They're very supportive, but they still think they can like beat me one-on-one and stuff,
Well,
which
that's
isn't true.
probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun to see your family along the way and all these trips. I'm sure in Kansas City we'll see many of them as this tournament creeps. And then I got to ask about something else that one of your teammates said, Mr. Harlan, you have to make sure you bring this up. So apparently there was some karaoke recently, and apparently they're not going to let you forgive this. And as this person told me, even 10 years from now they'll be bringing this up. So a certain song came on, and you didn't know. Can you tell our audience what song you didn't know and are still taking grief about?
Don't Stop Believing by Journey.
Did you freeze? I mean,
the pressure got to me. I couldn't handle it.
they were just all looking at you, and you just honestly said, I don't know the name of that
well,
song?
I was singing the lyrics, but because they played a little clip of the song, and I like knew the lyrics, but I just couldn't get to the chorus. So I was like, and all I did was just sit there thinking, like, I know the song, but it didn't come to me.
So you froze. You hit free throws at the end of game. I've seen you win games on the free throw line. I've seen you hit threes that changed, but you froze then.
Yes, in front of my team about a song, I froze.
I'll let you guess which teammate may have mentioned that to me, even though I'm sure all that stuff's supposed to stay in the locker room, but you know how I find stuff out. Well, last thing. So kinesiology, right?
Yep.
This is your last semester academically, and how's that going?
It's going well. I just have to finish up one credit. I'm trying to get my prerequisites for med school. I don't know if I'm going to go that route, but just do it to see if that's a
Makes
path
sense. I mean, obviously, I think I speak for many that believe you're going to be a professional basketball player, but as typical of so many of our athletes here, especially so many through our women's basketball program through the years, you're going to have options, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go to medical school or go to the WNBA or whatever it might be, but we are so blessed to have you. You've been such a joy and such a leader from the moment you walked in here, and cannot wait to see what the rest of the season brings. But congratulations on everything going on. Let's keep it rolling.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, G.
Follow the Utes on social media by searching for Utah Athletics on all social media platforms. Well, that will be a hard act to follow, Gianna Kneepkens, who is having an unbelievable year. And here's what I like, just a quick thought, then we'll get on some other things. She's such a humble, down-to-earth athlete who has got an absolutely killer instinct and mindset.
Don't stop believing about Gianna Kneepkens. Let me tell you, when your best players are some of your best people, I've seen this for so many years, you've got such a chance to win so many things off the court, on the field, off the field. She's great. I'm glad people heard a little bit about her stories, because I've talked to G before about having 5 brothers and the fight to get food, the fight to get a seat that's not the middle seat. So she's used to competing, and so it's so awesome because it was such a traumatic thing to lose her on such a freak injury so early in the season, and to see her come back better than she was. And she worked so hard, Bill. She worked so hard. She was, in the weight room so quickly after her surgery, and mentally that's tough too. But she is just an elite person and an elite player.
Speaking of coming back better than they were, Utah football, since you and I last spoke, season ended. Obviously not the season people were hoping or expecting for, but some new offensive staff and obviously the transfer portal and some new faces. But there's a nice little buzz around Utah football right now, Mark.
Well, first of all, we haven't talked since the end of the season, and all you can do when you go through a season like that is just look forward. And it's great the guys got the win in Orlando. It's great being in a locker room that they were singing again, and the joy, and all the guys taking pictures on the field. Just hadn't seen a lot of joy, and those guys deserved that moment for them. And we're probably halfway home, and Whit's already thinking about tweaks and this and that and the other, and he wanted to come back, and I'm like, let's go. And he began making those changes, and really excited about Jason in particular. I've been following New Mexico football for a bit because my friend's the athletic director there. He's now at Houston, and he had said some amazing things about Jason a bit, last year, and obviously, with the roots he has in Utah, it just made a lot of sense. And he came by the office the other day, and we were reminiscing about a lot of different things. Matter of fact, Micah was with him, Micah Simon, our new wide receiver coach, and we were talking about, I think they were asking me, hey, the BYU game, when is it? Why is it not in the last weekend? And I made a comment. I said, well, I think BYU and Utah, we kind of decided that game is a real physical, fight. And we'd rather not have that on the last game if one of us, or heck, both, are going to the championship game. And I said in 2018, the Utes got a piece of that, right? We had to play 6 days later. And Micah looked at me and goes, I played in that game for BYU. And I'm like, how young are you, dude? He looked like, and he started laughing, and Jason did too. But, obviously, always tough to see just tremendous men go that coached our offense. And I wish everybody, Andy Q, everybody else the best. But it's nice to have these guys here, and they've been out recruiting like crazy. I thought they did a great job accumulating talent. We were very strategic. Witt, GM, and all of the group involved with trying to retain the best guys we could. I think we didn't get everyone, but we dang near did get everyone that we thought was really critical to come back. So I'm excited about who's coming back. And I'm really excited about these new guys that are all here now, along with a majority of our incoming freshman class now that are here mid-year. So a lot of stuff going on in football. They had a junior weekend this weekend, a lot going on, but the season will be here soon. We should be getting the schedule, Bill. Just got word this morning that we should hopefully get it in our hands later in the week to discuss it. Whit and I'll look at it, and then hopefully it can go public next week. That's what we're banking on.
What's the process? I remember when you and I used to talk with the Big 12, they'd kind of send it to all the different institutions, and maybe they have different versions, and everybody, I don't know if there was a vote or you'd kind of give the version you like. Does the Big 12 do something similar?
So they do it a little different. It's one option. They don't have you vote on it because I think they do a great job of talking to each school individually about different things, little things like we don't want to play on certain weekends or certain things. We talked about the BYU-Utah deal. So they really work with everybody on that. The interesting challenge in the Big 12 is being the only Power 4 that has both ESPN and Fox. We got to kind of do the dance between both networks, which others now don't really have to do. That's why you can see the Big Ten schedule come out a lot earlier because they're just really working with Fox, who then distributes it. So it's a little behind the scenes stuff, but we're working with them on that. We should have it soon. It's we know the teams we're playing as we reported last year in a 4-year rotation, but we'll know when. And sometimes we'll get some of those times out in those September games as quickly as possible, too.
One more quick football thought, but big picture. You go to a lot of meetings, national meetings. I know you were probably down in Atlanta for the national championship.
Yes.
What was kind of the national feel on the Big 12, the new Big 12, the 16-team Big 12 conference? Because preseason expectations and how things played out were two wildly different things. Did people like what they saw, the competitive nature of the league?
Well, I could tell you, in talking to both executives at Fox and ESPN, they were thrilled. And, it's just a league that obviously people gingerly talk to me about it on the way things were picked. But it was a league that you kind of didn't know what was going to happen week to week. You had some great stories in the Arizona State turnaround and everything they did. Obviously, Colorado kind of being in it, unlike last year where they were kind of halfway through the season. They were kind of out of it. So I think from that standpoint, I think people really, really appreciated it. And I think that's why, going back to this year, the networks are trying to maximize, which is good. We want it to be maximized. But I would say very, very entertaining league. I feel like we were pretty close to getting 2 in that tournament. That has to happen. We really need to get 2 in there each year. And we're going to continue to strategically look at ways we can help as administrators to make sure our football programs are at a very high level.
Couple of other things. End of the year last year, you guys had what was called a year-end excellence fund drive. And it turned out to be really good. Explain a little bit about what that is and how important for what you guys need in athletics it was.
Yeah, I mean, I give a lot of credit to our development staff who really was focused on what can we do at the end of the year to really inspire our donors and remind them how important they are to us. And so they put together a very strategic year-end goal of raising, multiple scholarships, right? We in this NIL era, and I just being candid, Bill, some love giving to NIL and some it's just not their thing, but they still love our students. It doesn't mean they don't. And scholarship, we have the need still to cover all our scholarships. We're going to be adding new scholarships next year in our next pod, we'll talk a little bit about where we are with the settlement because we'll have more answers then. But so we inspired people, I think, to really remember that they mean so much to us. And so we came out of there with, we far reached our goal. We ended the year with the most donors we've ever had to the athletic department in the Crimson Club. We've raised more money in our annual fund that we ever had. And it's just, it's always needed. But in this day and time, quite candidly, it's needed more than ever to recruit and retain and remind everybody that scholarship here is very important.
Also good news. Graduation rate, grades, the whole thing. It's been another excellent fall semester or year at Utah.
Yeah, the North Star here is to graduate our student athletes and have them lean in. And so when we got word from the NCAA that we were at 95%, which is the highest we've been, it was a moment to really take a deep breath for so many people here because think about the success we've had in athletics just generally over the last 5-6 years. And that group that came in 6 years ago are graduating at 95%. I mean, that's just extraordinary. These 3.3 GPAs and 30-plus semesters of over 3.0, our students are doing it. And 2 years into the NIL era, we're not slowing down in the classroom. And I think that's a message we need to continue to tell. G talks about kinesiology. I mean, we are spread all over in these majors, many in the undergraduate business school and so many other colleges and departments. So it was awesome, Bill, and a reminder that people's support for that is going to the right thing.
Baseball season, Diamond Sports season's just around the corner. And I can't help but glance left or right as I'm driving down Guardsman from time to time and seeing progress on the baseball stadium. How are things progressing?
Yeah, really, really excited. The American First Ballpark is doing great. I like to say on time, on budget. And Layton Construction has just done a phenomenal job. And the architect team has been amazing. And it's coming up pretty fast. And if you haven't been by there since the last football game, you'll go, wow. We got the rendition right out there if you're walking by the sidewalk or you glance over when you're driving. Really, really excited about it. Also really excited how it worked out, that the city was so great and is allowing us to play our last season at Smith. We thought last year was going to be the last season, but this year will be, and the guys are practicing down there. It's working out great. Appreciate the softball team. We'll let the guys crash up there in the fall up at their batting cages. But baseball's now got all set up, and then we'll play there, and then we'll come back to our new on-campus ballpark, and it'll be terrific.
And speaking of baseball, just a little note for those of you out there listening today. Buck Showalter will be in town next week, February the 6th, for the Night with Utah Baseball. It's the preseason banquet, baseball throws, fundraiser for the program. They always bring a fun baseball celebrity in. And Buck will be down, and, of course, Buck Showalter, one of the great managers of the last 25 years in Major League Baseball. Of course, a baseball analyst on ESPN and Major League Baseball Network, and makes the occasional appearance in a Seinfeld episode, too. So we'll have Buck down, and it's going to be this year at Rice Eccles Stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be on campus. I was happy to see that. Yeah, I'm a big Buck Showalter fan. I'm a big baseball fan. I know, Bill, you're going to sit up there and do a great Q&A with him, and there's a lot to ask him about. Because, he's been a part of so many legendary moments in baseball. But I love the fact that all these big-time folks have come through here. They appreciate college baseball. They know what it means to the overall game of baseball. And I encourage everybody to take a look at that on the website and come down and join us. It'll be a great night.
You mentioned facilities baseball. Let's mention this, too. You've got a new locker room coming for the swim program.
Yeah, we've had some, again, there's a theme here, just incredible donors that step forward. We're going to be able to build a brand-new locker room for our swim team and also our dive team. And they've needed it for a bit, and excited for them and excited for their season, right? I mean, they are off to a great start and been bringing in some unbelievable athletes, and so nice to be able to get that done for them this spring.
Any final words from you as we wrap things up here today?
As always, just a lot of gratitude for our fans for sticking through us. I know it has been up and down in various different sports. That's the nature of our business, that you kind of go up and down. Appreciate that. Look forward to updating everybody on what we're doing. I hope everyone got a chance to read the letter I sent, a little bit about where we are with the settlement. You and I can talk through that in more detail next time. But the Utes are in the spot where they need to be, pushing ahead, thanks to so many great people who support us. I'm very, very grateful.
Mark, don't stop believing.
That was amazing, by the way. Oh, my gosh. We're not shy. It wasn't just one of her teammates. There was a few. Mr. Harlan, ask her about this. I love that team. I love her. She's just awesome. But, yeah, don't stop believing in the Utes. Let's go.
That is going to do it for this edition of Hear It with Harlan. For Mark Harlan, for Gianna Kneepkens, and our entire crew here at Utah Athletics. We'll talk to you next month on Hear It from Harlan. Go Utes. This has been the Hear It from Harlan podcast. Make sure to follow Utah Athletics and listen all year long as we keep you up to date on the Utes.